All right, let's dive right into this. Imagine a high-stakes scenario for a second. Your highly concurrent application is handling thousands of user requests smoothly. Everything is going great. And then, suddenly, an infinite loop completely hijacks a CPU core. The result? Everything else grinds to a complete halt. Well, welcome to this explainer on the Go scheduler. Today we're going to unpack exactly how modern Go prevents this kind of CPU starvation and how it keeps your heavily concurrent applications running smoothly, literally no matter what code is thrown at it.
So meet our villain for today's scenario, goroutine 1. Let's just call it G1 for short. Let's say G1 enters a tight, mathematical, infinite loop right there on the CPU. It's doing some incredibly heavy number crunching without any pauses, without sleeping, and without making a single network call. It is just spinning furiously on the execution thread, and by doing that, it is completely monopolizing that processor core.
Now, because G1 is hogging the CPU, goroutines G2, G3, and G4 are now completely stuck. They're sitting right there in the local run queue, perfectly ready to do their jobs, but they're waiting indefinitely for their turn at some CPU time. And you can probably guess what happens next. Almost immediately, system performance begins to bottleneck. The critical work that needs to get done simply isn't happening because the resources are just entirely consumed by G1.
Ultimately, this leads to a catastrophic system freeze. And it's not just that a few Go routines are delayed. The entire system essentially freezes up. The Go scheduler itself, the very brain that's supposed to manage all of these tasks, is completely locked out. It cannot regain control of the CPU core because the thread executing G1 simply will not hand control back over to the runtime.
Now, you might be wondering, how did Go handle this in the past? Well, in older versions of Go, specifically prior to version 1.14, the runtime attempted to handle this using a model called Cooperative Preemption. In this model, tasks would voluntarily yield control back to the scheduler at specific predetermined safe points. Basically, the whole system relied on the Go routines themselves to be polite neighbors, expecting them to occasionally step aside so others could get some work done.
But how exactly did a Go routine know when it was time to be polite? It was actually a really clever trick. The Go compiler would secretly insert checks at function calls, specifically checking a flag called stackGuard0. This acted as a highly efficient yield point. So, if the scheduler decided it was time for another Go routine to run, it would set this preemption flag. The next time our running Go routine called a function, it would check the flag right there in the function prologue, realize it needed a yield, and happily hand control back to the scheduler. Pretty smart, right?
But here is the fatal flaw. So the crucial point is, what if the infinite loop has absolutely no function calls? Think about it. If our villain G1 is just running a tight mathematical formula, there's no printing to the console, no calling other packages, no expanding its stack, it never hits a function prologue, which means it never checks that preemption flag. Actually, scratch that. It can't check the flag, so it absolutely never yields. Under the old cooperative model, the system just remains hopelessly gridlocked.
To fix this exact problem, Go 1.14 introduced a massive paradigm shift. It was a real game changer. We moved away from cooperative preemption, which only yields politely at function calls, and shifted over to asynchronous preemption. This new model, it doesn't wait for a Go routine to be polite. Instead, the runtime actively interrupts executing threads at safe points, seizing control back by force if necessary.
Let's break down exactly how this forceful intervention works step by step, because the mechanics here are just fascinating. Go runs a special background thread called Sysmon. You can think of it as a highly vigilant watchdog that operates completely outside the normal scheduling rules. Step 1. Sysmon constantly monitors the system. If it detects a single Go routine running for more than 10 milliseconds uninterrupted, which is an eternity in CPU time, it decides to take action. Step 2. Sysmon fires a specific Unix signal, a sig-erg signal, directly at the thread running that greedy Go routine. And step 3, the operating system delivers that signal and the thread signal handler catches it, forcing a context switch that completely bypasses whatever the Go routine's code was trying to do.
The immediate impact of that sig-erg signal is absolute. G1 is forcefully paused right in its tracks. Its current state, meaning its registers, its stack pointer, its program counter, the whole shebang, is safely saved away at what the runtime calls an asynchronous safe point. The villain has been caught. That greedy infinite loop is finally suspended, and the CPU is instantly freed up for other work.
And this brilliantly illustrates what happens next. With the CPU finally free, the runtime executes a totally seamless handoff.
A waiting, runnable goroutine, like our starved G2 from earlier, is instantly moved out of the local run queue and onto the CPU core to execute. The gridlock is definitively broken, the bottleneck clears, and your application resumes processing actual, useful work.
But, what happens to G1? The Go scheduler isn't entirely unforgiving. Our heavy loop isn't killed or deleted entirely. Instead, it's just forcefully moved to the back of the line. Specifically, G1 is placed back into the global run queue. This ensures it will eventually get to resume its math loop later, but only in a way that allows all the other Go routines to share the system's resources fairly.
Which brings us to the absolutely crucial concept of scheduler fairness. By enforcing forced time slicing via Sysmon, the scheduler ensures literally no task runs for more than 10 milliseconds uninterrupted. Because of this beautifully shared CPU approach, all Go routines are guaranteed to make progress. Ultimately, this completely eliminates CPU starvation, giving you a stable, highly responsive system even under the absolute heaviest computational loads. Honestly, this is exactly why Go is so highly regarded for building robust, scalable backend services.
Stepping back to look at the big picture for a second, harmony is fully restored. We now have a perfectly balanced system where thousands or even millions of Go routines fluidly rotate execution across the available processors. No single task can hijack the system thanks to the vigilant watch of the Sysmon thread and the raw power of asynchronous preemption.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, looking at how the scheduler manages time, prevents starvation, and aggressively reclaims resources to keep your code moving. Now that we've explored every scheduler component individually, how does the complete scheduling process work from Go routine creation to completion?